It's Monday, September 9th at 6 p.m. and we declare the council meeting of the Township of Nairn and Hyman open. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? I, Wayne Austin, declare pecuniary interest in item 6B on September 9th, 2024. I am making this declaration because a family member is involved. I confirm that I will not vote on the matter. I will not take part in a discussion or any question in respect of the matter. And I will not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting of such question. And another one, Wayne Austin, in item 4A1 on September 9th, 2024. I am making this declaration because a family member, I confirm that I will not vote on the matter. I will not take part in a discussion on any question in respect of the matter. And I will not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting on such question. And signed, Wayne Austin. And then next, we have our delegation from Tiffany Pacheco from KPMG, who has that lovely giant report to read through. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. Everybody's favorite time of the year, going through the financial statements. Belinda, do you just want me to share my screen, or does that work?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take us off and then you can have the full screen.
Thank you. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks everyone. So I know that this information was included as part of your council package. So there's certain things I'm just going to spend a little bit more time on. Others that I'm not going to I'm just going to stick to a bit high level. So we call this a combined audit planning and findings report. So there's a few items that we're going to be going through that relate to the planning of the audit, and then a number that relate to the actual completion of the audit. So the first is just our calculation of materiality. I see for some familiar faces, so you'll remember this from the prior year. We do calculate materiality using a percentage of your operating expenses. The logic of that being, of course, residents are most interested in how you spend your operating budget. So as a result, that's how we use, that's what we would use for materiality. Your operating budget has been continuing to increase over the last number of years. So as a result, you're going to see increase in materiality. But the new asset retirement obligation standards came into effect in the current year. It was probably the biggest accounting standard change since TCA, so tangible capital assets, came into effect in the last about 10 years ago or so. So this was a lot of work, and thanks to Belinda for providing a lot of the supporting information for us to be able to work through these calculations and get the statements updated. Management override of controls. I always say to everyone, don't worry, we're not saying there's just there is a risk of fraud foundational in the auditing standards in relation to this, that as auditors in Canada, we need to address. And we go back to Belinda and ask her for supporting documentation and information for purposes of completing this audit procedure. We do have to let council know if there is anything that came to our attention which would indicate the entries were not did not have a reasonable business purpose or didn't have adequate support, and there was nothing that was identified in the testing that was completed. Presumed fraudulent revenue recognition risk is an area that we rebut, and that's because your revenue streams are not subjective, non-judgmental. It's taxation revenue, it's government grants, it's user fees. There's not a lot of judgment associated with those particular items. Okay, so moving on to the completion of the audit. We were working through the audit over the last number of months and did have to wait for the third-party report for the landfill in order for us to work through the final calculations. We are going to be working through the final financial information return, which is submitted to the province, and then we'll be fully complete for another year, which is great. So we do have a few corrected misstatements. They're very typical year-end adjustments that we work through with Belinda on an annual basis. These are just correcting entries to do things like record receivables or record your capital assets in the year. Very typical in the municipal space for these to have to be recorded. And these items are all corrected in the numbers that we're going to be walking through today. From a control deficiency perspective, the auditing standards require us to let you all know as council if there were any significant deficiencies in internal control that we had identified in the completion of our audit procedures. There were not any deficiencies that we need to make you all aware of, so that's just our comment here. And from an accounting policy perspective, you probably are tired of hearing me say this over the last number of years, but this was the year to adopt the new accounting standard. It was a material adoption. So when I say material, that means that it exceeded our materiality calculation. As a result, I'm going to point out a few of the items that impacted the audit report for the current year. I would say the biggest change in this new standard compared to the old standard is the fact that because you operate a landfill, that gives rise to 100% of the obligation on the date that you start to operate the landfill. Where under the old accounting standards, would say just record the liability as you use the landfill. So as capacity is used, then you would record the liability. So it did result in a material impact to your financial statements. The thing that is nice about this new standard, though, is that anything asset retirement obligation related sits in both your assets and your liabilities. So it's all balance sheet now. It doesn't impact any of your expenses like it did previously, which is good, because then you would have to reconcile out and explain why that wasn't an actual cash expense. The other thing that is making up your asset retirement obligations is you do have some buildings with asbestos. That's very normal given the age of some of your buildings. So as a result, there's two components of the ARO that are included in your statements. Okay. So as I mentioned, because of the adoption of the new standard, you may have noticed that there are two new paragraphs, one right here called an emphasis of matter and one called an other matter. If I can sum it up in the easy terms, what this means is we went back and updated your prior year financial statements for the adoption of this new standard. In restating the numbers, we also have to go through and audit those in the current year. I will point out to you that every column in your statement does say that they are restated. That's not because of an error. It's restated as a result of the accounting policy adoption, which is clearly indicated here in your audit report. So it's not as if anybody would be thinking, well, there was a mistake, things needed to be adjusted. It's very clear that it entirely related to the accounting standard change. Assuming that council approves the statements today, that's why we have the date of September 9th on here, and then we'll be able to get the finalized statements over to Belinda for posting on your website. The management representation letter is a typical letter that is signed every year. It basically says that everything that we needed to complete our audit, we were provided, and there wasn't any information that would have been withheld from us in the completion of the procedures. And then the last part is there's just the summary of the accounting adjustments that were made as of the end of the year. So before I go into the numbers, any questions so far or questions on the audit? Not seeing.
No,
Okay. Perfect. So I'll keep on going through the numbers then. So remember, these are the numbers as of December 31st of 2023. And what you're seeing right now on the screen is a snapshot of assets owned and liabilities owed as of that date. I'm highlighting right here the little note that says the restatement, which you're going to see throughout all of the financial statements and notes in the financial statements, but that will only be for the current year. So number one, you can see very healthy cash balance of $1.5 million as of the end of December. You had good positive cash flow from operating activities of about $523,000. You use this to purchase your capital assets of about $121,000. And then the remaining items were actually sitting in your current accumulated surplus as of the end of 2023. You can also see that your receivables are down. This also helps to improve your cash balance at the end of the year. And that's because you may remember at the end of 2022, you did have some large significant grants for capital purposes. So you had your ICIP funding, and that was for the Old Nairn Road project. So there was about a $90,000 decrease in the grants outstanding as of the end of 2023. Also, because there was a lower amount of capital spending, you also had a lower HST rebate as of the end of 2023. The last item to note is your taxes receivable right here. So you can see a slight increase in your taxes owing as of the year-end date. But you may remember, I always like to break it down as a percentage of the levy. So it's very comparable on a year-over-year basis at about 11.8% as a total percentage of your total tax levies in the year. The number one question always is, what's a good number? And in Northern Ontario, those numbers tend to be a bit higher than what we would see in more Southern Ontario. I see upwards of 20% with some of the municipalities in the north. So being around the 11%, of course, is a good spot to be. You can see, of course, there was a bit of an increase as well for your allowance in the current year. You do have that one property that has continued to accrue your taxes and not likely to be collectible as of the end of the year. So I would just say that continued focus on your older balances, because the older they are, the less likely they are to collect, because you can see very much you have great collections of your current amounts, which is good for cash flow. Moving on to the net financial liability section of the financial statements. And you can see, just as I mentioned earlier, so because you had a lower amount of capital spending as of the end of the year, your payables are down as well. So that's both your amounts owing to suppliers as well as holdbacks that are owing as of the end of the year. And so that's just timing of those purchases that are impacting that balance. Your deferred revenue is significantly increased, so up to about $389,000 as of the end of December. You had a lot of NORDS funding that was able to be carried over into 2024. You had about $100,000 of OSIF dollars that were able to be carried over. And then you had some of the community building funding as well, about $78,000. So those all had funding terms that allowed you to carry them over to use for projects in 2024. Your deferred revenue obligatory reserve, that relates to your federal gas tax dollars that are unspent as of the end of the year. Every year you get additional funding, and you did use some of the funds in 2023 for some of your projects. Asset retirement obligation is that brand new line that I spoke about. So this is your new obligation, $223,000. There is a corresponding increase in your tangible capital assets to land improvements, given that the majority of your ARO relates to the landfill. There is a small portion that relates to your buildings, and we added the amount relating to the buildings to the building bucket on the statement. Just as a reminder, if you're wondering what you spent on capital in 2023, you did have a little bit of work on Old Nairn Road in the year, McDonald Street rehabilitation work, some water treatment work, and then just some other small additions in the year. Moving on to your statement of operations, which is all of your transactions from January 1st of 2023 to December 31st. Again, highlighting the fact that you do have a restatement here as well, and that's because in the past, your landfill adjustments would have flowed through this line called environmental services. No longer the case because it's all balance sheet. So in the year, you can see that your total revenues are down a bit. But the reason for that is your prior year in 2022 included a considerable amount of capital grants for your old Nairn Road project. So in the prior year, there was about $150,000 of capital grants compared to about $77,000 in the current year. You also in the prior year had Trillium funding. There was still some COVID-related grants, and you also did have municipal modernization funding. All of those amounts are one-time or project-related, so they weren't anticipated to continue into 2023. You do also have lower Government of Canada, so federal grants. Same exact idea. Your ICIP funding for Old Nairn Road was a combination of federal and provincial grants. So you can see that you had $271,000 of funding in the prior year and only $131,000 in the current year. And you also did have additional COVID-related funding in 2022. Your user charges are up a bit in the year, and that's because of additional waste disposal and water revenues noted in the year. Your other income is up considerably because you had a significant amount more building permit revenue noted in 2023. Penalties and interest are pretty comparable. And then finally, your interest income is up. You had more money in the bank and interest rates are up. So you actually did generate some additional interest income on the cash balance that you have in the bank. Total expenses are up. And I wanted to highlight this in case anybody saw this statement and thought, wait a minute, revenues are down, but expenses are up. Just a reminder to everyone that your revenues in 2022 contained a significant amount of capital grants. And the capital grants, those expenses are not included in expense. So it is a bit of a wonky look to the statements in the year. But don't worry, in a few slides, I'm going to reconcile out the surplus so you can see that you actually did have quite a strong financial year in 2023 with a strong operating surplus. Your general government expense was down, and that's because in 2022, you had some additional asset management planning expenses, and you had additional expenses relating to the election and some salaries and benefits. Protection to persons and property in the year, you just had additional contract-related expenses for policing costs in the current year in 2023. Transportation costs. So when you invest in your capital, as you have with the Old Nairn Road project, you then have to amortize those assets. Because you've had a significant amount of capital spending on the road projects in the last number of years, that's going to translate to more amortization expense. And then also you have some additional salaries and benefits, and your environmental services are pretty comparable year over year. Same with health services and social and family services, and social housing, those are all pretty comparable year over year. Your recreation and cultural expenses are down only because the prior year had some additional repairs and maintenance. And then your planning and development costs were up in the year because of costs associated with the planning amendments. You can see as well, you had a net improvement to your accumulated surplus because you no longer have expenses relating to your landfill or ARO running through your expenses. So that was the improvement to your accumulated surplus as a result of the adoption of the new asset retirement obligation standard. So I do always like to take a peek at, because the main statement is by department. It's always helpful. The segmented note does have some additional support to say, what did you actually spend your money on in the year? You can see there's a slight increase in your salaries and benefits in 2023. Materials are down. do find that tends to fluctuate in years where you have a significant amount of capital spending. You do tend to have more materials, which is what you saw in 2022. Your contracted services are pretty comparable. The external agencies was higher, again, with a lot of that capital work happening in 2022. And you can see the steady increase in your amortization. I think this is a really great news story, because what this is telling you is, as a township, you're continuing to invest in your capital on an annual basis, which is great to see. You're not, yeah, and I know in speaking to Belinda, I know that you have a few more projects on the go for the coming year. So I think this is the slide everyone is always interested in. What is our actual surplus in the year? So when we look back to 2023, you had a $242,000 operating surplus in the year. I do understand from my discussions with Belinda that this additional surplus was utilized for various projects that you would have had in 2024. But again, a good news situation to be able to have those excess operating funds to be able to use on your projects in the current fiscal year, which is good to see. But as of the end of December, just want to show you that surplus is just parked in this line right here. So you see here, this other surplus, you can see that that's where that $242,000 operating surplus is. The other thing just to note is you also transferred $80,000 over to your reserve set aside by council. And just a reminder to everybody that these are reserves that council has set aside, not an external party. So as a result, if push came to shove and there was a project that required the funds, council would have the ability to, take some of the amounts out of the road project and use on whatever project was going on, that sort of thing. So I think from my perspective, that was all that I really wanted to say in relation to 2023. As always, thanks to Belinda for all of her help in getting the audit and everything all sorted. It's a small but mighty team that you have there at the township. And if it's all right, I'll just stop sharing so I can see everybody's faces and answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Not from me. Not from me.
It's a lot. I just had two questions, and Belinda and I actually already discussed them. So there was like 297,000 as an operating surplus. But we took 276,000 and we've used it in a project in 2024. And the 7.2 million accumulated surplus is really our assets.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I always make sure to remind everyone that, while you have $6.6 million of accumulated surplus, I don't think anybody's in the business of selling off the town's assets. So that's the only way that you're ever going to have access to those additional funds is by selling them. So of your accumulated surplus of 6.67 million, 5.5 million has already been spent on your capital. The remainder is what you have. So it is about just over $1 million at the end of the prior year. So to your point, I think a portion of it has been used already in 2024. You still do have those other reserves of about 820,000.
That's what the right example. Anything else?
I'd just like a clarification on what you just said there. You said we have 1-point-something million in reserves?
I'm going to share my screen just again, if that's all right for everyone, because I think it's a bit clearer if I walk you through the numbers. So at the end of 2023, you can see that, so you have here, so this 297,000, that is free and clear for you to be able to use on any project that you would want. It hasn't been earmarked for a particular purpose. Then you have 818,000 here of reserves that have been set aside by council, and an additional $20,000 here. So if you think about it, you have just over $1.1 million at the end of December of surplus or excess cash, surplus dollars that have been accumulated since the beginning of time that the township was incorporated. So all of these amounts here, and why I just have to, one other thing I just want to show everyone is, you as a township, you can see, are in a net financial asset position. So what that means is if you were to, at the end of December, need to settle every single obligation that you had, you still would have $1.1 million of accumulated surplus dollars to be able to use on whatever projects you might have coming on. And so that's where I've said, you know, you can see it's in the unrestricted amount of 297, your reserves set aside by council. Not every municipality would be in as fortunate of a position to be in a net financial asset situation. In fact, some have had to take on a lot of debt to further capital projects. So they'd actually be in a deficiency. So, I mean, pretty good news story for council to just see what makes up your surplus, your accumulated surplus dollars here.
Thank you.
Of course.
I got one more question.
All right, Councillor McDonald.
Yes, usually, other years, we used to get your report. We used to get it ahead of time, so we can look at it a little bit longer and know what you're talking about. You're going pretty fast for me to pick up some things. Are we gonna get a report from you? Like a book, we used to get a little report from you.
Yeah,
No.
I'm sorry that you didn't receive it. I do know Belinda does have a copy of it, so Belinda, feel free to pass it along to council for sure.
It was included as part of your council package.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I missed it somehow. I'm
It
sorry.
was
That's
right at the
okay.
beginning.
it's right at the beginning, but I can show you where it is if you want to look back at it.
So we're not gonna get a copy of it.
If you can have, I can print you one if you'd like.
I will make a copy of it.
Sure.
We got one every other year.
Yeah,
Because
sure,
I
no
used to
problem.
get- We used to get a copy of it before the auditor comes and report, and this time here, I didn't have nothing to look at. Okay, thank you.
No worries. And my contact information is also included in the report. So if after you take a peek at it and you think I should have asked this question, by all means, please reach out.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Is there, or do we, this?
Yeah, just, we can accept it.
Moved by Councillor McVeigh, seconded by Councillor Despatie, be it resolved that the consolidated financial statements for the corporation of the Township of Nairn and Hyman for the year ended December 31st, 2023, as presented to council on September 9th, 2024, be accepted as presented. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good rest of your meeting.
Good night.
Us too.
Bye.
So next we move into a public meeting. So moved by Councillor Despatie, seconded by Councillor McVeigh, be it resolved that the council meeting is now adjourned at 6:30 PM for the purpose of a public meeting. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So I'm not sure if Connor or Sarah can hear us. They're here to present their planning memo. Oh, there they are.
Hi, Belinda.
Hi Connor, hi Sarah. I'm just gonna ping you so we can all see you.
Sounds good.
There we go.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I guess you're speaking to us about 89 Minto Street or close to it. Pardon?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, Counselor Austin is.
Sorry, we just have a counselor that's declared a pecuniary interest. Okay, good to go.
Perfect. Yeah, okay, I can start our little presentation and then we can kind of go from there if that sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, counselors. My name is Connor Joy. I'm a planner at J.R. Richards. As you alluded to, the proposed application is at 89 Minto Street. The consent application is for an easement to allow access to the adjacent parcel just to the west. This will kind of aid for the property to be able to be serviced and developed accordingly. JLR has reviewed the application and is recommending approval subject to the outlined conditions in the report. I'll provide a brief overview of the application and policies, as well as some of the conditions that we've added to the consent before final approval. So the subject lands are located in the northwest portion of the urban settlement area of Nairn Center. The subject lands front onto First Street, a municipal road that is legally maintained with access to Minto Street, a municipal road maintained year-round. The landlocked parcel, as I said, is just located west of this parcel, 89 Minto Street. As part of the approval for consent, the provincial policy statement, official plan, and zoning bylaw of the township are required to be reviewed. The subject lands are located in the settlement area of the township. As mentioned, the consent is to allow access to this parcel. The application to facilitate access and servicing will allow for construction of a new residential dwelling in the settlement area where the focus and growth and development shall be. No new municipal infrastructure is required for this development in terms of so that property has access to roads and water. Therefore, we've deemed that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement or PPS. In looking at the township official plan, the lands are designated as residential district and located in the settlement area. Section 3.3 provides that this urban settlement area is intended to be the primary area of the focus and of development, residential, commercial, etc. The official plan also states that existing lots of record may be used for building purposes as long as the lot has legal access. The application in front of you is to permit this legal access through the creation of an easement or right-of-way. This is permitted as outlined in section 4.5. The application meets these policies and therefore we've determined conforms to the OP. In looking at the zoning bylaw, the township, the lot is zoned general residential R1 in the township zoning bylaw. No building shall be permitted on a lot unless this lot is fronted on a public street, unless where the case has legal access, such as an easement, which again, the application in front of you is for. The subject lands will have the right of way and form an easement registered on title. Therefore, we determine the application complies with the provisions of the zoning bylaw. As standard with any consent application, conditions are permitted as to be attached. JLR has recommended a handful of standard conditions in terms of paying taxes, prior registration of our plan, etc. There's two specific conditions that we've added as part of this application. And they're the form of legal agreements. Belinda and I, we've talked about these prior, but really these are to make sure that between the applicant and the owner of the lands that there's proper servicing and liability and maintenance of the easement itself to make sure that there's continued access. The second agreement that we recommended included as a condition is between the applicant and the township. This is to ensure emergency access, water service, and hydro are all sufficiently maintained, and this just kind of has some liability aspects for the township to make sure there's no issues going forward. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
That's great. So, now it was my understanding that there were two other agreements that were necessary. One, about that it was located close to the rail. And
Yeah, so the rail, in the official plan for existing lots of record, no rail studies, no rail noise or vibration are required but just because it's located close to the rail, we've recommended that just a condition be added so that people are aware. Obviously, Mr. Austin, he's going to live there. He knows that the rail line is there, but just anybody going forward in the future might not know. This is a pretty standard condition. Sarah and I have added this to other applications before that are close by to rail lines. It's not anything kind of out of the ordinary.
And a survey is necessary as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of the R plan. I think that's also pretty standard. That needs to be registered with the land registry just to make sure that to actually create that easement, that survey needs to be done, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I can jump in just to add to that. So the easement needs to be surveyed because it's only over a portion of the neighboring lot. If the easement was going to be over the entire lot, then we wouldn't need a survey. But that is to describe the lands to which the easement actually applies.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, that's great. Do we vote on it now or do
So no, now we would come out of the public meeting and then we would vote on it.
do we say goodbye to JL Richards?
Yeah, everyone's good with understanding the agreements?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much.
Perfect.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for wading through our financial statements.
No problem.
Bye.
Moved by Counselor Petit, seconded by Counselor McVeigh. Be it resolved that the public meeting is now officially closed at 6:38 PM. And the council meeting is now reconvened. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Petit. Do we need any discussion about this? Are we all generally for it? Belinda's recommended it. Our legal people have recommended it. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Petit. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, the public meeting is declared open for the purpose of hearing comments on consent application. A, application for consent file number B-01-24, submitted by applicant Richard Austin for the purpose to create an easement across the rear yard of 89 Minto Street, concession 4 part lot 3 and 40 lots 1 and 2, Nairn and Hyman, to provide both access and services to the adjacent land whose parcel is currently landlocked, located concession 4 part LT 3 and 40 lots 3 and 4, Nairn and Hyman. All in favor? Carried. And so we don't need to discuss all these standard agreements. That's already,
As long as that's what council is agreed
It's all
that those are
standard.
needed.
It's all
Yeah.
standard agreements.
yeah, and it's what our,
It's all done, you know, you can go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Petit. Be it resolved that the planning memo prepared and presented by JL Richards Limited regarding an application for consent of 89 Minto Street is accepted as presented. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, now one more. This is where we actually prove it.
Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Petit. Whereas that having been satisfied that the notices were given in accordance with the Planning Act, and whereas a public meeting was held by the Council of the Township of Nairn and Hyman regarding the application for consent on September 9th, 2024, in accordance with the Planning Act, therefore be it resolved that consent application number B-0124 be approved subject to the outlined conditions in the notice of decision document. All in favor? It's carried.
Okay, so you just have to sign.
Way back in.
In black.
Yeah.
Well, then, is it necessary for him to leave?
He doesn't have to leave
Yeah,
if,
that's
if we're not in closed session, no.
Is there another one? You've got more
No.
papers.
Oh, it's just, we're just signing the, notice of this.
Well, that's a big thing, done.
Get settled.
Yeah. Well, and plus the delegations are a lot, right?
Yeah.
We have people come in, no one ever wants to talk for 2 minutes.
And we got 4 minutes there for.
Yeah, we're on number 4 of 1916.
Got an earbud, iPhone.
It looks like we're gonna have a tiny break for a second, if anyone else would like a break. Okay, well, I'm gonna pause. Moved by Counselor Day Petit, seconded by Counselor McVeigh, be it resolved that the following council minutes be accepted as presented. A, regular council meeting minutes of July 8, 2024. B, closed session meeting minutes of July 8, 2024. C, joint emergency meeting minutes of the council of the Township of Nairn and Hyman and the council of the Township of Baldwin, August 19, 2024. All in favor? Carried.
Financial report.
So are there any, I didn't ask, are there any discussions from previous minutes? Okay. Moved by Counselor McVeigh and seconded by Counselor Day Petit, whereas councils received the CAO's report 2024-24, outlining the 2024 Q2 financial update for information, and therefore be it resolved that council accepts the report as presented. All in favor? It's carried.
The amendment, the noise bylaw.
Okay, so this is the noise bylaw. Do we discuss it? I guess we have to before we pass this. So we can't name any particulars. But we do know that there has been some conflict between, some company and some residents. And we would like to make very tiny changes to the noise bylaw to make it so that there can't be basically industrial noise before 7 AM, which to me, 7 AM is still pretty early. I almost feel like we should be talking about this in closed session, but because there's a lot of particulars, but does anyone, am I missing something? Is there more you'd like to add? Carefully worded?
I thought we were under the understanding that we were making this amendment because there was some wording that made it hard for the bylaw officer to enforce noise at any time. And anybody, it wasn't in any one particular, there was a wording issue that would, if they took it, if anybody took it to court, they could win. I was sorry, I wasn't aware that we were looking at one particular issue. I was looking at as this had to be done for
any
for
noise?
everybody. Or else it's very hard to take anything to court. That's what I was under the understanding. Was I
I
wrong?
can speak.
Sure.
Through you, Madam Chair. You're right. There was, literally one word in that bylaw that made it, the bylaw officer not be able to enforce any noise infraction for any piece of equipment that could go on the highway.
Right.
So we're not just picking on one particular spot. However, as we all know, there's been some issues.
Yep.
But, we're making this change just to keep hopefully a more peaceful town.
That's fine, I was just. The way it came from your worship, it would sound like we were talking on one particular person, but this could be anybody.
Yes. Yes, Counselor Austin.
Okay, my concerns, knowing anything, any business, construction company, industry or everything, they have to be at their sites most places before 7 AM in the morning. So we're definitely restricting these businesses there to operate.
Well, it's not. Well, how, I mean, if we have a business that's in an industrial zone, like yeah, this is awkward because I can't name
Yeah.
specific businesses. And examples. Should we talk about this in closed session? Can we do that
I
or
would like to go in closed session so we can speak up and
in particulars?
We can, if we don't wanna identify individuals, sure. So we can,
I think we're talking about pretty particular situations.
resolve that we'll discuss, the CA's report in closed session.
Sure. I don't know if we, this. Who would like to move? Counselor Austin? And Counselor McDonald?
Yeah.
Would you second it? Moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McDonald, be it resolved that council will discuss the CA's report in closed session due to identifiable individuals. All in favor? Carried.
Oh, this was out of
So
place, sorry. That
Uh,
should have been first.
moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Day-Petty, be it resolved that the minutes and reports of items 7A to F are noted as received. All in favor? Names. Pardon?
So my apologies, that got out of order somehow.
No, it was,
So is the next, are we on tender
Tender,
for
yeah,
Sand Bay?
Yeah.
So we have loosely discussed this earlier. Do you have something more than?
Yeah, I can give you some more details.
Sure.
Through you, Madam Chair. So it's my understanding that the tenders were vaguely discussed earlier in the Public Works Committee meeting. So I believe were the quote numbers given to you at that time, or do you want me to go through them?
They were pre-tax and after tax.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So, I believe the superintendent, the municipal superintendent gave his recommendation to go with MCA contracting. With tax, it came in at $403,234.17. When we take away our HST rebate that we get back, that final amount would be $363,124.86. I did check in with our RV Anderson, our road engineer. He gives them great references. He's worked with them many times before for the city of Sudbury, for the town of Gore Bay and several other communities. So they're an up and comer. They're not a huge company, but they're definitely an up and comer for municipal and public roads. We did have a lower bid and I'm sure they would love to come in and show us what they can do. I do have some reservations just due to the fact that they don't have public road building experience, and I'm not sure if they understand the insurance and the liability and the traffic control requirements that would be required as part of this type of job. As much as we all know that they do fantastic work for private roads. So that's our recommendation, is to go with MCA. It is over budget. We do have, we are under budget on the McDonald Street project, approximately $65,000. We're under budget for that, so that would help make up most of the difference between what was budgeted and what this quote is coming in at. But then we also have to discuss
Culverts.
the double culvert that we know we need to do some work on. And so our purchasing bylaw does have a clause in it that allows us to sole source projects like this, that if there's someone already working on it, they know what they're kind of in for, and we can get something done cheaper. We don't have to tender it out in this type of circumstance. So with council's approval, we'd like to award it to MCA and ask them to give us a quote for the additional works for that culvert, so. Now it's up to council if you'd like to ask questions or
Should
give additional feedback.
Should I have already done this?
Oh, we can, yeah. We can do that.
Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Diapati, be it resolved that council accepts the minutes for the opening of the tenders received for the rehabilitation. This is just for opening the tenders, for the rehabilitation of sections of the Sand Bay Road on September 4th, 2024 is presented. All in favor? It's carried.
So then I just have a blank motion.
Okay, so are we generally, what are your feelings on this? Are we generally in an agreement for MCA contracting that's recommended to us, or Counselor
I'd
Austin?
just like to speak on the tender process itself. I feel bad that these people didn't show up for the opening of the tenders. So that they couldn't explain what they were doing, like our lowest tender, which is a benefit to us. It's very hard to accept it when we don't know their qualifications. But my thinking is, they're doing that, but they have to have a subcontractor to be doing that. They can't, they're not qualified in a way to do it themselves. I'm sure they have somebody else. And I hate to lose a local contractor, but unfortunately, he didn't show up, and we know they have no practical experience or previous experience in doing that.
Well, that being said, I can tell you that I did the road. Birch Drive off Lang Lake Road. Lang Lake. And I didn't know what I was, but I subcontracted everything out. And the road building was a success. So I hate to throw this guy under the bus because he has no experience. He's been building roads in the bush for a long time. I, like you, Councillor Austin, would have liked to ask him a few questions.
That's the way I think,
But he didn't show up to the,
yeah, I know,
He didn't show up.
it's his own,
I don't know what you.
his own fault for not showing
I
up.
wasn't there either, so I couldn't ask him
No,
questions there.
My recommendation is to go with what the town foreman is requested.
I think you both make great points. It's true, but it's not quite adding up, right? And I think we're under some time constraints, right? We tried to do this a year ago. And, the highest quote then, I think Derek said for today was, 220,000 or something, like a lot more
It's gone up
substantially. Yeah,
another year, which we can't wait on the culverts.
No.
We cannot wait.
No.
I realize that, I just wanted to express my feelings on how, it's too bad we have to do this.
Counselor McDonald, do
I
you,
agree with Wayne, if I knew for sure he was a qualified person, I would go for him for sure. But, if he was here, we could ask him if he's gonna hire subcontractor or what he was gonna do. But, I'll go along with the other two.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move forward. That we are recommending for MCA, is that? And I guess we also want to include in that the culverts as well.
Yeah, so I think maybe we could do a separate motion for that.
Okay. That looks like a big motion. Who would like to move this? Counselor Austin?
If I may say something. I'm concerned with us giving the contractor the culvert job, not knowing what the costs are going to be. Now, he could inflate that, or they could inflate that to anything. I'm sure it's gotta come within reason, or they're not, we can't just give it to them.
I can speak to that. For you, Madam Chair, yes, we've discussed this with our road engineer.
Yeah.
He's given us a ballpark of what he believes it would cost. So what my plan would be we would award this contract and go to them and ask for a quote for this additional work. And if it comes in a reasonable amount, then council could perhaps give us a range of what we could accept, a dollar amount. Or I'd hate to have to wait till our next council
No,
meeting.
we got something we have to do.
Yeah,
So let's do this and then we'll do culverts.
Okay.
Next, and we can discuss the dollar amount then, right? Moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McDonald. Whereas council acknowledges the tender amounts received for the Sand Bay Road project as noted below. GIP interpaving in the amount of $523,274. Inclusive of HST, MCA Contracting Limited in the amount of $403,234.17, inclusive of HST, Future Wood Products Limited in the future of $332,516.71, inclusive of HST. Further, that council discussed the tenders at the Public Works Committee meeting held on September 9th, 2024 with the municipal superintendent, and therefore be it resolved that directs that the contract be awarded to MCA Contracting Limited in the amount of $403,234.17, inclusive of the HST. All in favor? Carried. So I think the general dollar amount for culverts for the two would be theoretically 80 to 100,000.
that's what we've been given, yes.
So.
These are
um,
large culverts with a lot of water going through them. So, I mean, we can't just plunk some small culverts in there. It unfortunately is gonna have to, be well thought out. We're gonna have to close the road for a specific short period of time while we get them in and out. And then fix the road work on top. We also have to remember there's going to be some reclaim or hard top that's gonna have to go on top of them in addition to that. So,
That is why we want the same contractor, because he's gonna have.
he's gonna have the product with
Yeah.
them already right there, yeah. And where they're gonna mob and demob is exactly where this spot is. So we won't have to pay contractors twice to bring in equipment and take equipment away, so we would hope that there would be substantial state savings in that.
So do you think it's appropriate to just say the limit is 100,000, or do you like 105?
Because we're in somewhat of a
Dire Straits.
pickle with this culvert. It can't wait. It has to be done as soon as possible. I mean, it's safe right now, but it needs to be replaced. I would perhaps give us a bit wider range to work with. Obviously, myself and the municipal superintendent, we're gonna try to work out the best deal that we can. And if it comes in over a certain amount, then we'll have to call a special meeting to ask for additional funds.
So how high of a limit do you think we need? 120?
I feel that that would be substantial, like, I feel like that would be appropriate for a high limit.
Is everyone okay with approving 120? That does seem high to me when we're talking about 80.
We're
I
hoping
can't
it's not.
understand that much money to change a couple culverts.
I can't either.
We just approved at the Snowmobile Club, 130,000 to change one culvert on Fox Lake Road. 130 grand. Oh, keep that snow machine
Okay.
trail open.
Is that what it costs?
That's what it cost. That's what we have the contractor going in to do it in its first week in October. It's 130 grand to change the one big culvert on the road. It has to be changed. So
So
What
approve
was the
of
diameter?
I don't know, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
these ones are approximately 3 feet.
Yeah, this is so large.
Okay.
It
And there's two of them.
Yeah, we just have one, but it's one large culvert.
seems like a lot of money when you think an excavator's gonna be there for roughly 4 hours and a couple and the loads of gravel, and then put the hard top on it, just. It seems like a ridiculous amount of money, but
For what we did
maybe
there.
it'll come in cheaper, we don't know.
Yeah, for what we did there, our offer, our things were like $130 was the cheapest, and it went to 190. For snow machine trail, culvert,
Oh.
and what do? Without it, you can't, you got.
No, you're stuck, we're
And we have
in
the same thing, that
boat.
road collapses and then open your phones.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's
Okay.
refocus. So I think we're generally agreed with the top limit at being 120,000.
Yeah.
And let's hope you can get a deal.
Maybe it'll come in at 80.
We won't put a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no.
However low they wanna go.
Yeah.
We'll bake you a
20
cake
bucks.
if you get a really good deal, a gluten-free cake.
I know everything's expensive, but that just seems right out of this world.
I can give you some numbers. I build houses, I know what it costs.
Let's hope they don't listen to the meeting.
Sure, they got a million other things we do.
Oh, I didn't put in the.
Counselor McVeigh, do you want to first this?
Sure.
Or Counselor J. Petit? Second.
I will.
Did you want me to put in that these amounts would be withdrawn from reserves? Since they're not budgeted?
But that's the only place we can take them from.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
just,
better get along.
yeah, okay.
The house always knows when you have money, somebody told me, right? We just said we had money.
Yeah.
And here it goes.
yeah, it lasted half an hour.
I assume from the road reserve?
Let's see what you're gonna think.
From the road reserve,
Or
is that okay with everyone? The road reserve?
Sure.
Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Day-Petit. Be it resolved that council directs that the CAO and the municipal superintendent approach MCA contracting for additional works contract to replace the two large culverts on Sand Bay Road for the maximum amount of $120,000 to be withdrawn from the road reserve. All in favor? It's carried. Get us a deal. Okay, we're approving minutes. Moved by Counselor Day-Petit, seconded by Counselor McVeigh. Be it resolved that council accepts the following minutes and reports as presented. Township of Nairn and Hyman Community Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes, July 30th, 2024. Township of Nairn and Hyman Community Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes, August 27th, 2024. Aqua work order summary, July 2024. All in favor? That's carried.
This is for the budget request for fall yoga.
Oh, yeah, I'll just explain it for, so basically we need to approve funds, even though the yoga session will not actually cost the town money. It just comes out of two different accounts, but this is how we will be able to have yoga technically. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Day-Petit, whereas council notes the Recreation Committee Resolution 2024 Rec 36 requesting $800 for a fall yoga session, with the note that this program is self-funding due to the revenue received from fees. And be it resolved that council approves the budget request. All in favor? It's carried. Receiving correspondences. Moved by Counselor Day-Petit, seconded by Counselor McVeigh. Whereas council notes the correspondence received from MPP Michael Mantha, MPP France Jalinas, and the Township of Conmy regarding the transportation and intention to deposit naturally occurring radioactive material north of Agnew Lake in Hyman Township at the Agnew Lake Tailings Management Area. And whereas council wish to express their appreciation for their support. All in favor? It's carried. It is great that they've been supportive. Of course, you all know that there is the town hall on Wednesday at 7. I can't be there. Vern Gorham, Mayor Baldwin will conduct that meeting. There will be many visitors. The Ministry of Mines and the MTO will present together, so they'll have half an hour. And then the Nuclear Safety Commission, they'll have 15 minutes. We have several First Nations groups coming. Are they actually speaking or just coming as support?
One has said he perhaps means it.
And a Northwoods, what is the actual full name?
For Northwatch, yeah.
Northwatch.
Environmental Association.
Yeah, and they are going to speak for 15 minutes.
5 minutes, actually.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
okay. So it will be a full night. And basically, the idea is that we're just going to hear, no decisions have to be made that night at all. We just listen to what people present. And I have really encouraged some of our presenters to bring facts that instead of just telling us that it's fine and it is low radiation, that we would like to see the science behind it. So hopefully that happens. Which is basically the proof, right? Is it the Legion?
Yeah.
What did you think about the request for support for the military service recognition book?
I thought we had passed on that last year.
We did,
Feel the same this year.
Yeah, I agree.
okay. Moved by, agrees to purchase or does.
Just put
agree-
0.
Okay. Moved by Counselor Austin, seconded by Counselor McDonald, whereas council notes the correspondence from the Royal Canadian Legion Ontario Command requesting support through the purchase of an advertisement in the military service recognition book, and therefore be it resolved that council agrees to purchase an ad in the amount of $0. All in favor? Carried. And then we have a request for support for the Send a Kid to Camp program. Anyone have comments?
Is this new? Like, have we done this before?
We didn't do it last year,
Yeah, I
but we have done it in previous years.
I just don't remember it, sorry.
Is anyone interested in doing this? I wasn't particularly.
No.
We thought we should send a Nairn kid to camp. That's what we thought. Moved by Counselor McDonald, second by Counselor Austin, whereas council notes the correspondence from the Sudbury Manitoulin Children's Foundation requesting a donation to support the Send a Kid to Camp program. And therefore be it resolved that council agrees to give a donation in the amount of $0. All in favor? Carried. And we wrote with 0 because of confusing.
So that one's the bylaw, so we can wait
Okay.
until after this session.
So that's the noise bylaw. And then community sport.
Yeah, that's the grant that I had on there for information.
Did anyone look at that community sport and recreation infrastructure fund? And do you have any questions? Belinda's looked at it in detail. We are really interested in the Trillium Fund that funds 90% of a project. This does not. It funds 50%. So if you can imagine, the minimum amount is 150%, 100,000, and then we would have to put in another 100,000. So that doesn't really work for us as well as the 90% grant. Yeah.
It's right in your eyes.
How that sun has dropped and got right in your face.
Yeah,
So that's 50%, eh? Okay, I thought I said
Yeah.
60, but I didn't.
Yeah, so I had chatted with you guys about this grant earlier in the year and they finally released it. However, the funding percentages weren't as great as we had hoped, so I am still looking for grants to bring the rig shack up to accessibility or better accessibility standards. Or perhaps in here, but I don't think this is the grant for that project. So I just wanted council to know that I have looked at it. And if there's any other large projects we'd like to attempt, just, we would have to jump on it now, as we'd have to have plans drawn up and quotes given if, you know, perhaps we wanted to rehabilitate this building or something, but it's pretty extensive application process, so anyways, I'm here to hear your ideas if you have some.
I'm not interested in it so much. How about you, Counselor Deputy?
Well, actually, CAO has been very successful at getting grants. I guess you got this one as well, through you, Chair.
This particular one, it's a brand new one. I haven't gone after this one yet.
Okay, well,
I was waiting for the Ontario Trillium Fund for the projects we had already identified.
all right,
But I just want you guys to know that this is available.
yeah.
We're fine to let it pass?
Yes, we are. I am.
Okay,
It's just-
okay, so.
Counselors on that side of the room are bright, eh?
Counselor
Counselors on
McVeigh,
that side of the room are really bright, that's the problem.
Counselor
Not as bright as
McVeigh, will you first and Counselor Deputy second? Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Deputy, be it resolved that for information only, item 11A regarding the community sport and recreation infrastructure fund is noted as received. And further that council directs that the CAO will not pursue this funding due to the cost sharing percentage of 50% of the requested funding that the township would be required to cover. All in favor? Carried. We just saved you some time. So next we have heavy truck traffic on Minto Street and the correspondence with the OPP. Robert Walsh. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be saying his name. but,
It's okay.
so I think we know, we've had a few big accidents on the highway and, as the police officers and fire department are busy on the highway. All the traffic is coming through Minto, but even very large trucks and McDonald too. So I don't know, what is the status of McDonald? Can there be heavy trucks on that?
I wouldn't think so.
No,
Oh,
no, that's not a heavy truck road.
Yeah. So, I wrote a letter to the OPP. He did respond and basically said that he needed more information. He was going to talk to people that had been there previously because it's my personal understanding that this wasn't much of an issue a couple of years ago. And I was under the impression that it was the OPP that stopped the large trucks and told people that they could go. There is a detour, you can go this way, but the trucks were stopped. And I think he just needed some time to verify what the policy is and see what next steps should be. So we are kind of waiting for a meeting with him, Counselor McVeigh.
just through you, Madam Chair, Counselor Austin, you're on that board and you had that meeting. Did anything come up in that meeting about it?
No, that was just
Nothing.
a preliminary meeting.
Okay.
Our
No, just a
next
question.
meeting is next week.
Next week already.
Just to go from having no meetings to having two back to back.
So we have to have 4 a year.
Okay.
That was our first one.
So,
So you gotta back them in.
You
But
have
is
all
that a
your-
question you can bring up there?
Yes, definitely, I will bring it up there.
And see
Good
what,
discussion.
you know, what can be done, right? I think there's, from being on the fire department side of it and being in another department for years, police handled that, stopped detours and stopped that. And then when we did stuff on the highway that was outside of our municipality or outside of the core, we always seen, back in the day, it was Beamish or Belanger or whatever it was. Now it's MCON.
Yeah.
MCON do their guys would come out or girls would come out and block the roads off and do the traffic control and that. I don't know why they still can't, in all honesty. I know the last accident, I think several times that vehicle went up and down that road. Why they couldn't, it's easy for me to say, there's like 5 entrances into this town. If somebody wants to Google it, unfortunately in Google's world now, they can go down. You didn't know where that road went before, now you just look at your truck, your GPS says turn here. And watch this and turn here and turn there, you know, so, but. Big trucks should have to stay off.
Oh, definitely, it's a street, public street.
We got very lucky in that last one. You know,
Our streets took a beating.
our street took a beating and a gentleman fell asleep and ended up running into the basketball net of my
Yeah.
neighbors.
Oh, luckily
Pushing it
there
into the
was no
garbage can.
accident.
And then he backed up and said, sorry, I fell asleep. The traffic was so slow and he drove away. But he pushed our neighbors, basketball net
over.
right over and into their garbage cans.
Oh,
Like if there would have been kids playing or somebody standing there, or your dog or whatever.
it happened
Somebody could have
anywhere.
seriously, and he fell asleep because he said the traffic was taking forever to get from, and they were 40 minutes to get around, but.
no, I drove to Tim Hortons, so that's a 15-minute drive. It took me 2 hours to get back.
No, but he said that when the neighbor went and seen him, that he'd been since the highway, he'd been 40 minutes to get to where he was.
Oh,
So, and he fell asleep, but then that's, if you
No.
fall asleep, pull over.
yeah,
But, so we have to watch that. We gotta be concerned about our citizens, our residents that live in our community.
That's a safety issue,
Yeah.
not just a
So,
regular road.
and I truly believe that was part of the trucks, because the trucks were lined up. I was busy at the time, but my wife said that the transports were one after the other.
well, and it's not even built for truck traffic, so if one of them has to turn right, there isn't enough room, and then you've got people frantically driving the other way, it was, like, it's not safe,
I'm
it's not.
hoping Counselor Austin in his meeting could shed some more light on it, even though your letter is excellent. Maybe his.
Well,
presence there.
it's not gonna hurt.
We need to find out or emphasize that we want MCON to do the road blockages and stop the traffic.
If they stopped it at the top of McDonald's, said no transports,
Yeah,
and back them up from there and just let car traffic through, then that, who cares who goes down McDonald Street in a pickup truck? Or goes down
Well,
Smith
we
Street,
can't,
or goes down,
they can't stop them.
no, but they could stop the trucks.
Yeah, but
But they could do the
Okay,
same together.
so if we're asking MCOM to do it, then we don't need to go through the OPP.
I think OPP have to instruct them to do it.
Oh, do they?
I
Okay.
would imagine it's their
I
highway.
would say so, yeah. Close the highway.
Okay, well, if you get it on the agenda, talk to them and see what they say. And so it's not going to do anything to do a motion for Belinda to contact MCOM.
No, it's gotta go through OPP at that, I think.
Yeah, I don't, like, I've done some talking to people, and I don't know what authority we have, or if we have the manpower
You
to
don't,
close the road.
who's gonna close it?
Yeah, well,
Our
that's,
superintendent lives out of town, we gotta, and even if he or she did live in town, drive over there and close it, then drive over there and close it, and then who are you to close it?
Yeah.
Are you gonna deal with the angry truck driver?
one authority, yeah, an MCON truck parked across the entrance,
It shuts it down.
yeah.
I thought it was the OPP previously, like, you know. who
OPP
was-
can reach out to MCON, and they've shut it down, because they don't have the manpower. I've been several times to that, where you see MCON on either side, you gotta let them go through so they can get to the other side to shut the other side down.
Okay, so you don't want a motion to ask, our CAO to reach out to MCOM, you wanna go through the OPP?
We can reach out to MCON, I guess, well, they won't do it unless.
Well, I mean, if we
Instructed by-
ask and they say no, then we're going to the
Well,
OPP
somebody's
as
gonna have
well.
to pay them. Well, it's gonna have to be the provincial government.
That's right, and when they're ordered by
No,
the
no.
police, they have to, they gotta do it.
Why don't we rate both things in a motion and whichever works?
I
think
think
it
we
was-
should just leave it. Myself, no motion. Wait until what we hear from them
Yeah, we can take care of it next meeting.
at the police board meeting.
Okay,
I can contact the. Building this, but I'll get it put on the agenda.
What's hard too is the OPP on Facebook were putting that detour, like they were advertising that detour all
Yeah.
over Facebook, telling people to take it, so. It's conflicting messaging when
Yeah.
they're saying take it and we're saying you can't take it if
Well,
you're
we're
a big
saying-
truck.
Yeah, we're saying you can take it, but you're not. if you're-
Non-commercial
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah,
Commercial.
but they need to be more clear in their messaging,
Yeah.
I would think too.
I think even if you take out the heavy trucks and it's just the cars, I still think it's a lot of
It's
people.
gonna be a mess.
They're not gonna shut down the highway.
No, I guess I'm not expecting, it just seems unsafe, like it's just a huge amount of people going as fast as they can, and it seems like a recipe for disaster.
But
Okay.
You're never gonna shut down the highway.
No, and we're talking about 8 hours.
If it's up the roadways, you can't get around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, if there is a death, then it's, 8 hours that it's shut down or close to it, so. Okay, so no motion for the OPP, we just keep an eye on it. Also, the other issue is, the speed. Speed monitoring,
They don't have the manpower to do everything. They can't monitor speeders when they got, 5 officers at an accident.
right, no, I'm just talking generally, but in comparison, we all know that we have to slow down to 65 at McCarroll, right? McCarroll is supervised heavily. We are nowhere near that, right? We've all seen a lot of police officers parked in many different places in McCarroll. Everyone knows that we have to slow down. Because 70 isn't that bad going through town.
I've seen several times in the last few weeks with them, people over in there.
You go by the house now, I have noticed the last couple of weeks, at least once a day when I'm home, they go past me.
According,
Well, I've noticed this summer, there was some out here and there was, one at, the old Mill Road there. And
Sign Bay Road,
on,
they said
on
they're-
the old Mill Road and Sand Bay Road, yes, too, but they been around a lot more than they have in the past 20 years that I've been here.
Well, at our last meeting, we found out they're at full capacity for their station now, out of Little Curtain, with a lot of new young guys. And I can tell you, I met two of them, that when that accident happened, they scared the hell out of me. As they come around the corner on the wrong side of the road with the lights flashing and you're coming up on the right side. There's no place to go.
Yeah,
Young guys are energetic and want to go.
I would just love to see people a little more attentive to the speed limit through town, because it's not unusual to see people doing 100 kilometers. It's, maybe it's because sometimes I'm trying to walk.
Well, I will hope that if we could get this other speed sign. I went down south last week. And I've seen three of them in different towns, the same size as the one we have in there.
There's one, a new one that, they've right at the end of the 4 lanes.
Right at the end.
Yeah. So I'll be working on that.
I know our speed sign works for people that don't normally travel the road, but people that seem to travel the road every day, the speed sign means nothing down.
Yeah,
I still watch it, I don't know why.
Yeah, I do.
I come up to 55 and I'm like, whoa. You just, what it's,
Not often.
55, 50, no. But I still watch it.
Councilor Deputy, did you have something else? Okay. So next we have the municipal, post office boxes. Actually, there's nothing municipal about it. So, so just to make it clear to everyone listening, the current post office location was not going to work anymore. There's been a staffing change. We did consider moving it into the hall here, but since it would have been a change of use for our hall, making it a retail, was that what it was deemed? We were quoted the amount of 100,000 to make those modifications, which maybe it's not 100,000, maybe it's 80,000, maybe it's 50,000. It doesn't matter. That was too much to spend on our post office. So today, yeah, the reality is we're going to lose our post office and we really didn't have an individual come forward that wanted to have the post office in their home, which is what we currently have, right? It's in someone's house, they're the postmaster. No one else wanted to do that. So we're at the point now where we will have boxes somewhere in the municipality. They will deliver mail and we will lose the retail aspect. So if you wanted to do flyers or ship a package or buy stamps, that's unavailable. And we should be able to get a larger box for delivery for large parcels. But I believe some of the counselors were checking out a few things after we had discussed it at the Public Works meeting. So Councillor Austin, Councillor Deputy.
So Councillor Austin and I went and measured those boxes. Presently with 18 boxes and one mailbox, it's 38 feet. So we measured the lot.
At home?
At the corner.
At the corner.
Yeah.
And we have 116 feet of frontage. And it's a bit of a triangle. So at the middle of the triangle, there's 40 feet. Councillor Austin and I figured if we put a culvert, or Canada Post may be doing that, putting a culvert, one off that short street and one off McDonald. You could create a nice through traffic. There's plenty of room for snow accumulating, and with two driveways, plow truck, like a pickup truck would have no issues, I don't think.
So did you say it was two culverts needed or one?
Two
Two.
would be better. There might be a possibility if we cut two, big,
First Street,
trees, that's coming in from the other street.
from Fernley,
Yeah, but there, I didn't like that bell,
no,
so I don't know if there's enough room. But if we put two culverts, one on McDonald and one on Nelson, we'd be really,
Just drive around, just waiting around.
right out.
And same for plowing.
And there's a
Then
light,
too.
there's a light there too, right?
And there's a street light right on the corner there.
That's all you need.
It fills all the requirements, and I mean, if the community grows, then we have to put, a couple more boxes, we've got the footage. Cause we're going from 38 feet to 116, we got a lot of feet where we could put more boxes.
Counselor McVeigh, would you like to speak about the other location behind the fire hall?
Well, I, prior to this, I thought it was a great one, but I actually like the first option, I guess, or whatever. that was
The
presented.
Nelson,
Because back there, you would have to put some lighting up. Could interfere with fire practice. You could have traffic in there while you're doing fire practice, and then people whip in to get their stuff, you know what I mean? And
or it could be as simple as for fire practice, you put a barricade and people are just walking to the mail. They're
give
not.
people a lot of respect for common sense.
I think the light would be easily, like you've got a building there, you've got an electrical source, like you should be able to have enough light from the building. That it would be,
There's some pretty bright solar lights too that would require no wiring too. If that's what you want to do.
any idea how much one of those is?
I don't have that in front of me, sorry.
No, I just. Any other locations you would like to discuss? How about behind here by the East Link?
We didn't measure.
Oh, we didn't measure.
Yeah,
After I saw the location on McDonald, I thought. This is excellent,
Cause that lot is, for lack of a better word, a useless lot, right?
useless lot.
You can't do anything, right? So,
And it keeps all the other all the post office vehicles away from our parking that is required for this building.
I think it's a great idea,
We do need to make a decision today
yes.
because the location where it is done by the end of September. And we should have two locations really, so that if something happens with the first one, then we've already lined up a second, we've approved it, so because we can't wait till October 14th or whatever the 21st maybe.
would it be the would it be Public Works that would have to prep the site, or is that Canada Post?
Well, I mean, you know how discussions have gone. It's been pretty hard to get straight answers. We don't really know.
Your worship, they must be coming under the gun too to get this done, like, are they bothering you?
No, I haven't heard from them since they were at our last meeting.
I did speak with them. I mean, you have to be mindful. People are on vacation too. So as much as this is a crisis for us, people still are taking weeks of vacation and, you know, it's just real life. And so, I mean, I did speak with them, but I would not
it's our
say,
federal government, they take the summer off and we're left with no mail, no nothing,
Yeah.
it don't make sense.
Cause, you know, at any given time, there could be a block across that driveway and nothing's moved, and then.
right.
We got no mail.
We got no mail, and I wouldn't blame her, cause I would do it.
No, yeah, we need to come up with two locations. So is everyone pretty much settled on Nelson Street?
I'd like it.
I don't really mind. I actually think it's nicer to pull through than to kind of pull in and then, you know, you can just see.
The only thing I like about this is we're putting a use to something that has no use.
That's
really.
right.
Well,
That's the
good,
only thing but
My-
that's the same over
so
there.
yeah, for both
My worry there
locations.
is, it's hidden.
Yeah,
Over
There's only
here,
one house over there that could possibly see anybody damaging anything or
oh,
wrecking
And there's probably 5 or 6 from.
How, well, there's traffic.
And there's traffic, yeah.
I'll sit there every day.
Not much. Yeah, what,
Be the new garden gnome.
CAO Ketchiba, do you have any concerns or?
As long as, council is approving of us utilizing some culverts and public works staff
Well,
and time.
I think we should put the 2 culverts in. Out of the municipal expenses and let the post office do the rest. If we offer them the property, if we have to lease it or give it to them, I don't know what the regulations are.
Keep the property. I wouldn't give them the property, I think I'd just lease it, you know, here's your spot.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
if they don't put the culverts in, whatever.
Whatever we can do to get this done and get this, I personally don't have a problem with 2 culverts and some gravel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, okay, neither
sure.
do I. So if that's we need a plan A, which would be Nelson, and is plan B behind the fire hall?
Why do we need a plan B?
Yeah,
Because if plan A falls through and
What-
the,
The only reason it fall through is if we turn it down.
yeah. We're willing to throw everything at it to make it work.
I don't mind, but then if it doesn't work for whatever reason, we're calling an emergency meeting, we're paying everybody and coming to another decision.
Don't-
Why not?
Can I just make one comment? I just wanna remind everyone that we mentioned putting apple trees on that lot
Yeah.
and there was a lot of unhappy people.
Off the
I'm
board.
just wondering what
That was over the Bears.
the residents would think about constant traffic in and out of
Yeah,
there.
but the
That's
post office won't bring any bears.
true.
Not
It's good
unless somebody
packages.
mails apples.
Don't ask me what my thought was on it, because it's our property and you elected me to do something.
There we
You're
go.
mad at me if I do
There we
something,
go.
you're gonna be mad at me if I
Yeah.
don't.
I just wanted
Can't post it.
to remind
We
everyone.
need a location for the post office and we're
Okay,
operating.
okay.
it.
Call me if you're mad at me.
Okay, so you're not interested in a plan B?
No.
Okay,
Through you, Madam Chair, may I suggest that we say, this is the site? And let them say, well, we need culverts or whatever.
Sure.
Don't offer them the culverts unless we have.
We'll offer them the
I
property.
don't know how we word that in a motion,
Yeah. Well, I just think.
or just allow you to negotiate, but then we approve the,
I don't know how you word it, we're offering the use of the property.
Yeah.
Not the property, we're offering the use of.
Use of it, yes.
Or their.
Well, we would be doing the same thing back there.
Yeah.
Or over there, or wherever we.
Yeah.
okay, so this is our last issue and then we'll take a break before closed session. I don't think we'll have a big question period today.
That's the corner of Nelson and Hall.
No, Nelson and
Nelson and
McDonald.
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 Right to. What is it, Furlane?
Spur lane or whatever, yeah.
It's Spanish thing.
Spanish.
I wondered where, I was
Yeah.
like, that's a street I've never heard of.
Yeah, we have a Fur Street.
Yeah.
First Street, but not Fur Lane.
Yeah.
It's just off of First Street.
Have a Gay Street, Perry Street, all good names.
So we don't want to get into the particulars of negotiating or.
How about we know? I know your wishes,
Okay, all right,
unless you want it reworded.
no. But this also doesn't approve. Culverts if needed.
But we've already given her, she's the CFO of the town, she should be able to make some decisions that we all agreed upon right here.
We all agreed if we have to, we'll put them in.
Yeah, we're gonna do whatever we gotta do to get it done.
Just
Yeah.
saying, it's not
Yeah.
needed.
I mean, we can do
Okay, it's not a
that.
writing, but we'll do it writing after.
Well, you'd said to offer it first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So if it's in a motion, it's
Then it
not
can't.
offered first, it's just given.
That's right.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yep.
moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McDonald, whereas council has received the update from Mayor Maisy regarding the possibility of allocating a location at the municipal office for the post office boxes, and be it resolved.
Sorry. Cause we were talking about the municipal office. On municipal property. Sorry.
Whereas council has received the update from Mayor Maisy regarding the possibility of allocating a location on municipal property for the post office boxes. And be it resolved that council approves the use of municipal property at the corner of Nelson and McDonald Street for the location of the post office boxes. All in favor? Carried. So I think why don't we take a little break before, do we need to say something about closed session?
We'll come back and.
Okay.
do the motion.
Okay. Moved by Counselor McDonald, seconded by Counselor Austin. Council moved into closed session at 7:50 PM. The purpose stated in section 239.2 of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identifiable individual, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by municipal or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Counselor Austin, seconded by Counselor McDonald. Be it resolved that council return to the open meeting at 9:28 PM and report on the general discussions held in closed session, personal matters about an identifiable individual, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, which both dealt with a property that is proposed to be donated to the township. All in favor?
Correction, 8:28.
Nice, okay, yep, 8:28, you're right. All in favor for 8:28, carried.
Okay, so then we'll go back to the CAO's report.
Okay, so this is about the noise bylaw. Moved by Counselor Dave Petit, seconded by Counselor McVeigh, whereas council has received the CAO's report number 2024-25 for information, and therefore be it resolved that council approves the proposed amendment to the municipal noise bylaw. Further, that bylaw number 2024-28 will be given 3 readings at a September 9th council meeting to enact the changes. All in favor? Carried.
Sorry, that was a little bit redundant, but just.
Moved by Counselor Austin, seconded by Counselor McDonald. Be it resolved that being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2014-12, being a bylaw to provide for the regulation and prohibition of unusual noises for noises likely to disturb the public and for the prevention of public nuisances, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2024-28. All in favor? Carries. Anybody else? Okay. Moved by Counselor McDonald, second by Counselor Austin, be it resolved that being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Nairn and Hyman be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council. Its number shall be 2024-29. All in favor? Carried.
Then we just need to talk about if we wanted to have, we have a integrity commissioner report to be given. He couldn't be at this meeting and he feels the one, I believe it's October 21st, I want to say, is too long. Do we want to have a special meeting to have that report? He can give the report during the day. He said it would take less than an hour. So he's given me some dates that he can attend.
October 1st to 4th or 9th to 11th.
Yes.
I am not personally inclined to having a special meeting for this, but if the rest of you feel motivated to that, I can do it, but I kind of would just like to wait till our regular schedule council meeting.
So is he saying that he can't do it for the October 21st?
He hasn't said that, he just felt it was too long, but
Oh, so it's
He
like
couldn't
it'd be an
make-
hour of the meeting.
He couldn't make it to this meeting. Yeah, an hour is a long time.
he said less than an hour, sorry, if I said that wrong.
Well,
I'm-
the second dates in October don't work for me.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just not inclined. You don't feel, Counselor Austin, that you would like to have it sooner? You're fine to wait till October 21st?
Yeah.
Is there a rush for this report?
I don't know the answer, I don't know if he has a timeline. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We had really tried to get a hold of him
For this meeting,
and that didn't work. So if we're all fine that I have to add this to this?
we just would put the regular date in, which was October 21st.
Okay, so we don't have to mention a resolution about. Moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McDonald, be it resolved that the meeting of September 9th, 2024. Do now adjourn at 8:33 PM to meet again on the 21st day of October 2024 at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Carried. That was an